Hello, salutations. What it do is Sadot the Gamer, all father the do-rag gang. Know the vibes, like and subscribe. Let's get it. Good morning, chat. What's up, Joe? What's up, King Tony, Bruce? It is once again that time. Everything's looking good. What's up? Happy Saturday. Good morning. It's about afternoon my time. Welcome back to another episode of Super News, our new Saturday tradition, where I'll go over all the news, at least some of the biggest stories in gaming over the past week. What's up, Craig? Not quite as spicy as a week for news, but we do got some interesting stuff to talk about today. We of course had the state of play, which I live stream. I'm going to recap that for those that missed it. We got some important GTA 6 information. Looks like we're not going to be waiting until 2030 for GTA 6 to drop, which is good. And of course, we got some fresh Marvel's Avengers related news. You know, things are always crazy in the Marvel's Avengers community, and this week is no different. So I'm going to go over everything that happened in that regard. What's up? Waiting for some people to get in, and then we'll jump in. How's everybody doing this weekend? Shout out to today's sponsor, Fan Dominion. Check them out for that awesome Marvel, DC, anime, and Star Wars merch. Links in the description. Code Sadot for 10% off. Another way that you can support the channel and get some nice drip at the same time. The state of play wasn't that great. Yeah, we'll get into that. But I was definitely looking for Hogwarts Legacy, and we ain't get Hogwarts Legacy. I'll say that. That pretty much sums up state of play for me. What's up, Original? All right, let's dive into the first story. For those that missed it, Gotham Knights, my most anticipated game right now of 2022, finally got a release date. They announced this before this state of play. Unfortunately, we didn't get any Gotham Knights footage at state of play, but at least we did get the release date. By far, to me, the best news of the week. Gotham Knights, October 25th. Lock it in. It is finally coming. Unlike Suicide Squad, which officially has not been delayed yet, Gotham Knights is one of the games Warner Brothers confirmed, along with Hogwarts Legacy, was definitely coming out in 2022. And true to their word, unless this gets moved, 10/25, mark it down. So just because it is, of course, marked down does not mean that's going to stick. But based on previous reporting and the fact that there was a playtest up for Gotham Knights on Steam, makes me at least hopeful that the game is going to come out on time. So let's hope that Gotham Knights does not change. There was a bunch of delays that day related to movies and TV shows. A bunch of pretty much everything DC is coming out with movie wise got delayed except for the new Shazam. Marvel had some delays. She-Hulk is now coming out later in the year after Miss Marvel. So good that Gotham Knights 10/25. Let's get it. Please, for the love of God, do not move. If this date moves at all, I hope it moves up. So also we had State of Play, of course. There was a lot of hype going into State of Play, mainly because people were hoping to see Spider-Man 2, which was a long shot, or possibly God of War Ragnarok, maybe get a release date. And in my case, Hogwarts Legacy was my biggest thing. There was reporting from leakers that it was basically at one point 50-50 on whether there would be any Hogwarts Legacy. And unfortunately, there was absolutely none. State of Play kind of was state of mid, if we're being completely honest. But nonetheless, here is a rundown for those that missed the live stream. some of the stuff looked okay. We had a new game called Exo Primal from Capcom. It's coming to the PS4, PS5, Series X, and all that good stuff sometime in 2023. It kind of looks like Overwatch and Valorant with dinosaurs. Some people were saying it was giving them Anthem vibes, but essentially you're in a cool exosuit with superpowers, and there's basically a World War Z type of zombie horde consisting entirely of dinosaurs. So so that could be fun. Some people didn't like it. I thought, that could be fine. We had Diofield Chronicle, Valkyrie Elysium, another RPG that looks exactly like Final Fantasy. The one bit of news that was interesting and is a bit of a surprise, Returnal, the roguelike that came out on PS5 exclusively, got some critical hype when it came out. Very difficult game. It's getting an update. They're adding a new area to explore, a huge tower, and they're adding a co-op mode to the story. This is going to be a free update. It's called Returnal Ascension, and it's going to be released later this month, completely free if you already have Returnal, and that is definitely one thing that I'm thinking of checking out. I might be doing that over on Twitch. I'll play some Returnal co-op if anyone wants to hop on with me. That seems like a fun way to explore that crazy story. We got a little bit more of Ghostwire Tokyo. The action adventure horror supernatural title from PlayStation that is currently supposed to be launching on the 22nd of March. And we got an official launch trailer. Should be interesting. The game looks interesting. I might check it out, see if I can get early access of it. Tiny Tina is also dropping at the end of the month. And we got a really cool looking gameplay trailer for Forspoken. Speaking of games getting release dates moved, Forspoken was supposed to come out in May, but that got delayed as well until October. So Forspoken and Gotham Knights are going to be coming out the same month. Forspoken is going to be coming out a few weeks before Gotham Knights. So definitely, if you're interested in Forspoken, you can get it in, and then you can move right over to Gotham Knights, which is probably what I'm going to be doing. We also, of course, it wouldn't be a state of play without literally Final Fantasy. We got Final Fantasy Origin, a new RPG coming to the PS4 and PS5 on March 18th. There is a demo of it available, which I have downloaded, and I'm probably going to be playing a little bit of that on Twitch as well. We got a Gundam game. This is a free-to-play multiplayer shooter. It was announced last year for PC, but it's also coming to the PS4 and the PS5. And of course, we had the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Cowabunga collection, which includes 13 TMNT games from 8-bit and 16-bit consoles. And it'll be out later in 2022. That is the full list. And we also got Giga Bash coming to the PS5 and PS4, which is a kaiju battle royale type of game. So, and we had JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle. This was an old game that came out in 2013, but it's got a big remaster, and it'll have 50 playable characters. And this one actually looked kind of cool. Trek to Yomi, coming sometime in spring. It's a side scroller that artistically was giving me Ghost of Tsushima vibes. It seemed like a combination between Sifu and Ghost of Tsushima. Look, I don't play side scrollers usually. I haven't played one in quite a while. Looks like it's coming to PlayStation and Steam, but it looks interesting. It could be nice, but that was the state of play. As you can see, not a lot of things to blow people away. You know, if you're really into Ghostwire Tokyo and Returnal, this was a good show for you. Otherwise, yeah, if you were looking for God of War, Hogwarts Legacy, this was a very, very disappointing state of play. It only ran for about 20 minutes, but this is what we got for now. Hopefully we'll get some Hogwarts Legacy stuff separately. I'm looking forward to it. And let me see. Yep, that was the full list of everything on State of Play. Shout out to Kotaku for compiling everything. We had Gundam, Final Fantasy, Forspoken, all that good stuff. Those were the standout. Now, we had some GTA development updates. Apparently, they just hit a development milestone. Per Chris Couple on Twitter, translated from French, an important step in the development of GTA 6 has just been reached. Things should speed up internally at Rockstar. I think that a real announcement at the end of the year may be possible. In any case, I don't see the game arriving before the end of 2024. So when I heard GTA 6 was announced, I'm like, okay, well, I'll check back in 2030. But apparently, it looks like Rockstar is all full speed ahead. You know, they've milked GTA 5 for all it's worth, and looks like they're full speed ahead on GTA 6 because a potential official end of year announcement, in addition to a potential 2024 date. That's a lot sooner than I thought. I was literally expecting 2026, 2028. 2024, that's a year. That would be a year after. That would be a year after Insomniac's Spider-Man 2. So if he's talking about that time frame, not before the end of 2024, we could be looking at 2025 potentially. And I was literally thinking like 2028. So GTA 6, you might not have to wait too long. And now we'll get into the Marvel's Avengers side of the news for the week. We had a little bit of tea. We got the Miller back again. One of the, of course, you know, Miller, the biggest leaker in the Avengers community. He had a one-on-one with Evan, who you may know from the War for Wakanda war tables. He was a narrative consultant on War for Wakanda, and he confirmed to Miller during a Q&A that he contributed to writing upcoming unannounced Marvel's Avengers content. The full quote in question: "In terms of my future involvement, all I can say is there's stuff coming that I touched. I don't think it's been announced yet, so I really can't say anything more. But yeah, there's some very cool stuff coming from the game. So nothing earth-shattering, though it is interesting that they had Evan working narrative on some other stuff. So hopefully it's interesting. I was speculating maybe it's Winter Soldier, but we'll see. And of course, we had another major shakeup in the Crystal Dynamics staff. Andy, who we all know and love from the community management team. He basically is the entire community management team, hosting the dev streams and all that good stuff. He left Crystal Dynamics. he put this on Twitter. Of course, some people knew beforehand and couldn't say anything. Today was my last day at Crystal Dynamics. In these past 3+ years, I have met some of my most talented and supportive people in the industry, from traveling the world to hosting streams from home. I've had an unforgettable experience. Thank you, Crystal. So Andy is officially gone from Crystal Dynamics. He is leaving, and it is unclear exactly who is going to fill that void, because for those that don't know, and I think this kind of speaks to some of the hate that was and criticism that was directed at Andy, even on this very post. People just assume that, you know, Andy was the comms guy and just wasn't doing his job, where in reality he was. Yeah, there was several things in the position that he wasn't particularly great at, but he was hired to do one thing, and instead he was doing about the jobs of like 3 different people. Like, Crystal Dynamics has had a lot of turnover behind the scenes. There were some major people that worked with communications who left the project altogether, and they were not replaced. And Andy, through this past year plus, has basically been working himself to the point of literal exhaustion, and he actually had surgery recently. He hasn't been sleeping. It's definitely been hard on Andy, but because they did not hire more people. For those who know, Andy was, from what I understand, he was hired to work with the gaming press. His job was supposed to coordinate with the gaming media when Crystal Dynamics was rolling out some stuff to promote Marvel's Avengers. He would, you know, get with IGN and all that good stuff so that they could have all that organized. And then Andy's role evolved as people left and people weren't hired, and Andy essentially was like a one-man communications department. He had to set up and host the dev streams. He had to manage the socials. He had to write up the blog posts. He had to interact with people in the socials. So it was a bit of a mess. So obviously there's criticisms that could be leveled at Andy, but keep in mind he was asked to do several jobs that other companies hire people specifically to do. And it looks like that was, you know, contributing to the overall problem with Avengers that we're seeing, is they're not getting enough resources from the publisher, Square, to do what they have to do. Like, ideally they would be hiring, you know, more people so that everyone felt supported. But, you know, when Vince Napoli left the combat team, instead of hiring somebody new to replace Vince, they just took Phil, who was the Warzone director, and just slid him over and promoted Sean, who was working with Vince. He slid up. They had people working on the creator outreach, that the Avengers Illuminati. They left. They weren't replaced. So, and Andy had to slide in and try to fill that void. So so hopefully they hire someone new and a few more people, because communication has always been a problem with Avengers, and they definitely should not overlook this unless they're planning on just, you know, pulling the plug in September. So, you know, those rumors are going to get stronger after this one. But regardless, for all the drama, I do wish Andy the best in his next project, and I hope he gets some sleep. Now, the other Avengers news wasn't too much other than that. If you for whatever reason don't have bald Endgame Hawkeye and the Endgame Black Widow skin, you can get it for free. If you happen to both own Marvel's Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy, all you have to do is log into the game. If you haven't connected them already, they'll just have you confirm your Square Enix account sign in, And if it's the same as your Guardians of the Galaxy one, all you have to do is log into Avengers and boom, 2 MCU skins. Bald Endgame Hawkeye and Endgame Black Widow. Obviously, it would be much better if this was, you know, Ponytail Black Widow and Ronin Hawkeye, but, you know, it's free. Who cares? And I didn't get to this in the stream on Thursday, but the blog once again did have a development update, and it seemed to be mostly a summary recap of past changes, as well as kind of putting in written form some of the stuff they talked about before. In the first part, they talked about the buffs that are coming to Melee. For those that have missed it, Melee and certain heroics are in a state where they are not enticing enough to engage most players in many combat systems. This is a combination of the threat of heavy damage from enemies in melee range, lack of perks that increase heavy damage, the lack of easy status effect application for melee, and the ease of range combat to do all those things. Of course, this is from Alex, the Mr. Gear. And of course, we all know as Avengers players that melee does in fact suck in this game compared to range. Some characters, Hulk and Thor basically, have an easier time than others, but essentially it is a problem, has been a problem for a while. The first steps to making this a more engaging area of combat will be to do a blanket update to many perks related to melee combat. These updates include general percentage increase from perks, buff duration increases, and adding status attack types to signature attacks for Kate Bishop and Ms. Marvel. Now, this particular section, I'm not sure exactly how this is going to help really melee at all. I mean, Alex himself admitted that the 2.3 update isn't going to be a game changer in terms of melee, even with these, you know, adjustments. We'll have to see. You know, you never know with these Marvel's Avengers updates. Something might end up much more overpowered than we anticipate. You know, as an example, when Black Panther came out, you know, people didn't know quite what to expect from his gear. And when they got a hold of Black Panther was mostly pretty underwhelming. And then people discovered one of his gear pieces wasn't quite working as intended and made him super, super powerful. So maybe some of these adjustments might be a lot powerful than we think, but with the damage buff nerf, which is actually going to affect melee characters more than anything because the damage itself remains the same, this seems like overall a negative for melee characters, except for Ms. Marvel. Like they mentioned Kate Bishop and Ms. Marvel getting status types on signature attacks. But Kate Bishop's signature attack isn't a melee attack. It's a ranged attack. It's a signature, but the attack itself is a smoke arrow that you fire from a distance. So doesn't actually count as a boost to her melee. But Ms. Marvel does in fact get a boost. Her signature attack is that intrinsic spin, which will be doing a lot of work now that you can apply status to it. So look out for Ms. Marvel to be a lot more broken. This is by no means the full extent of the changes. We are already taking steps to add in other melee focused perks and features. This is coupled with a huge influx of hero specific perks tied to hero gear, adding many offensive and defensive options. While these 3 examples may sound like a drop in the bucket compared to the scale of gameplay, the range of adjustments is indeed vast, and small changes everywhere add up to large gains overall. Note also that this is only on the player side of a heroic mechanics. There are also factors around enemy composition, attack frequency, but that is a discussion for another day. Well, I guess that means this will be another blog, in which case we're probably not going to see the patch next week either. So now we're looking at potentially the 4th week of March for this patch. But the only reason that I have remotely any confidence in the melee improving, and for the record, I have very little, but I've been speaking with the Marvel's Avengers Illuminati members, and they assure me that they've heard some stuff. They've talked specifically with Alex about what the plan for Melee is and some of the spice he's planning on adding, and they insist that it's actually really good. So I'm taking their word for it. You know, these are the people I'm hearing it from are people that have been reliable in the past. So I'm taking the word for it that there actually are plans, at least, to significantly improve Melee. But I'm not seeing it so far. But we shall see about that. They also talked about the comic nerf. The comic adjustment was not only required to prevent damage nullification, but was also important in preparing for the introduction of many defensive perks, which are coming into making Melee a bit less risky, more rewarding endeavor, as touched on above. Comics allowed players to passively have comparable armor to those who sacrifice DPS for perks and stats dedicated to defense. This not only reduced the need for builds, as builds require a trade-off that comics do not have, but also diminished any value some of the new perks provide. In addition to there being several new sources of hero gear, including the set from Last Avenger Standing, status effects and stats overall have been added or adjusted. One of the most obvious examples will be the addition of Might to the heroic slot's possible attributes. In the future, we'll be looking over other comic buffs, as some are far undertuned or gain a negligible bonus over time. So it looks like they're going to be revisiting comic books and some of the other buffs that comics gives and giving it a boost. But for now, they wanted to get rid of the comic defense bonus because people were actually using it to go into God mode, essentially. The way that they went about doing it still rubbed people the wrong way. I feel like there was definitely a way to prevent people from going into God mode without completely nuking comics themselves. But that's going to come back to bite them potentially if these new defensive perks that they're talking about end up amounting to nothing. So we'll see. He also reiterated the changes that are coming to the damage buff. Once again, the damage increase, which is 65%, is staying. They are not changing it, but they are removing the increased crit chance. And once again, shout out Tricks Ridiculous. He keeps harping on the fact that the reason that they gave for the crit chance becoming a feedback loop is not correct, technically speaking, but they're removing the crit chance from the damage buff, and they're removing the chance of staggering enemies. This one is mainly going to hurt melee players. If you had the damage buff up while you're doing melee, then you could get your combos off through enemy aggro. And without it, now your combo finishers are back to being garbage. So this is going to hurt melee players the most. The critical chance thing is not going to have any effect on Thor players, and other players, they're just going to have to invest a little bit more in proficiency, and it should be fine. But that's the essentials of the damage buff. They're also going to be removing the crit chance from the North Stone and buffing the damage buff and the duration. That was all for the actual development updates. The rest are about the marketplace, which added the first non-PlayStation timed exclusive. Of course, we had the Night Monkey Spider-Man, only available on PlayStation, and we had Age of Ultron Black Widow. Now, this was originally supposed to be a shipment skin, but they removed it from the shipments after it leaked early and people were making fun of it, and ended up throwing it in the marketplace as a timed exclusive for Xbox and PC. So next week, the PlayStation players will have access to the skin in the marketplace, but for now, only Xbox and PC get it. You think it actually looks good in the game? All right, we'll open it up to the discussions. We can talk about any of these changes or anything else related to Marvel's Avengers. There is obviously a lot. There's still a lot that we don't know. We're still waiting for news on the roadmap, which they said they're waiting, which they said they're still working on. So we don't know when She-Hulk is going to drop, but we do have an idea of what she's going to be like. So that at the very least should be interesting. But if what I'm reading here is accurate, it looks like the patch 2.3 is not going to come out. Is going to come out a little later than I thought, unless they're going to have another update maybe on Wednesday and then drop the patch on Thursday. I thought the 18th was a reasonable projection for the 2.3 update, because I'm like, well, it's not a skin. I mean, it's not a whole DLC. I thought it'd be second, third week, but it looks like it might be fourth week. We need Iron Hammer. Your game is showing that you can get endgame suits. If you have Marvel, yep, we just covered that. For those that missed it, as a promotion for Guardians of the Galaxy, if you own both Marvel's Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy, you get the endgame Hawkeye and endgame Black Widow for free. All you have to do is log in. Sure, the game will make a comeback. I'm curious what the next shipment is going to be, because I mean, I have an idea what the next shipment might be, and I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. Definitely feels like Andy leaving definitely felt like that initially. You know, now there are reasons. Now this seems more like Andy was just like done with the whole thing, which makes sense. But yeah, it definitely was one of those things where like, oh yeah, this is a kind of a sinking ship that everybody's leaving. Kamala Disney Plus on next shipment. I think her suit's pretty much already in the game. Probably gonna be Stubbs' Cap. So what I was alluding to was that they show two recolors, multiple recolors appeared in the shipments. Ultimate Day Off Captain America ended up being the specialty item, but they also did new recolors for Hawkeye, Kate Bishop, and Black Panther, but none of them made it into the shipment pool. Only Day Off Captain America as the specialty item. So my concern was that one of those skins would be the chase item for next month. Is there going to be additional nerf to comics? No, according to Alex, there's going to be an additional buff to comics. That's what Alex wrote in the blog. You think we might get everything by May? Depends on what you mean by everything. I hope. I would hope She-Hulk is out before May, or by May. We'll see. I'm still holding out hope for April, because Miller seemed pretty confident that She-Hulk would be out by April, or well, at the very least, he said he'd be very surprised if she wasn't out by April. December roadmap. That said, I do think another damage buff nerf is coming. That's for sure. Because if you pay attention to what Alex said in the stream and what he said before, he wanted to get rid of damage buff. He wanted to get rid of it altogether. He wanted to completely nuke damage buff into the ground because it was bad for the game and was making it hard to balance everything. That was the intent. Because damage buff was too powerful and too generic, he wanted to nerf it so that it would make room for other perks. And instead, he seemed to compromise and say, okay, we'll keep the damage increase, which was the problem, but we'll get rid of the other stuff like critical chance and the impact and the likelihood of staggering enemies. So that means either he didn't need to nerf damage buff to begin with in order to implement his plan for build diversity, or he's going to nerf it down the line. The best way to farm comics is to just open chests. And they were dropping from the harm room, but that farm, the best farm for that was patched already. So just play the game. Play harm rooms, farm chests. I think I'm on the side of War Machine was canceled. How can you log in? You turn on your system, you open Avengers, and it logs you in automatically. You wish there were new heroes every 2 months with new villains and stories. Don't we all? State of the game is so bad. Can you tell us their plans? Well, somebody knows something, but it's being close to the vest. Only thing we know plan wise is what there is the quality of life and gear stuff. Nothing about the content other than what Miller knows. He really should have nerfed the actual damage. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if the problem was the damage, then you nerf the damage, you nerf the chance of it activating, you nerf the duration. You don't just leave everything the same except for the critical chance and the stagger. That's why I'm like, that's why I'm like, either he was capping before or he's going to nerf it again. CW Volcanics, he didn't say specifically what buffs they're getting, but there are other, the main thing people were farming comics for was for the actual defensive bonus, but comics boost a bunch of other different attributes. So I'm assuming he was talking about those. To offset that, yeah, to offset the loss of critical chance, just add proficiency to your build or just play Thor. Yep, there's also a minor artifact that gives you an increased chance to collect comics. You think the only two characters coming this year are She-Hulk and Captain Marvel? Well, if we're going that route, then it would actually be She-Hulk and Bucky, because he's more done than she is. You want Falcon so bad? Yeah, I want Loki so bad now that Alex was talking about it. You wish Andy gave us the inside scoop since now we're there. Yeah, I want Andy to tell us about the danger build, but obviously he signed an NDA, so he can't do that. But it would be nice if he just slid some info to somebody anonymously. Like, yeah, by the way, this was what was on the danger build I was talking about on stream. Is it October 25th yet? Sadly, no. We're getting such a short roadmap. Well, we don't know what's the roadmaps, what's going to be on the roadmap yet, but depending on what it covers, it could definitely tell us some stuff. Gotta admit, Marvel's Avengers better in 2021 than 2022. You think? You think it was better with one less character endgame mission? Less gear. What's up, Oscar? Where's patrol mode at? I don't know if it. The last I heard, which was a few months ago, they were working on patrol mode, but they weren't going to release it until Join in Progress was done. It's truly a shame that all they seem to do is find things we like in the game and take them away. Yeah, that's definitely something that I wish Alex was a little more mindful of. I recognize the balancing act. The foundation of this game was not good, and there's a lot of stuff that Alex has to fix, and as a result, it's required him to take away a lot of stuff that people have gotten used to. But in some instances, I think he definitely could have just looked the other way, like with Nahana's armor with Black Panther. I feel like he definitely could have been like, okay, well, kind of leave this alone for a while. At very least, definitely for the farming methods. Andy left. Yep, we covered that. What's up, Oscar? We went over the week's news, and now we're talking about the latest with Avengers. Andy from Crystal Dynamics, our the community manager, hosts the dev stream. He just left the company. He announced it on Twitter. And it's creating waves across the community. What's up, Umbrum? XP, yep, double XP weekend. I think Ultron was scrapped. Last I heard from Miller, Ultron has not been scrapped. They said patrol mode still have gear that has perks for cloning labs. Cloning labs doesn't exist. Cloning labs is a myth. We already know they struggle with characters, so we already know off rip we're not getting more than 2 characters. Sorry. Well, it being already March doesn't necessarily mean we won't get 2 characters, but it's the longer we go without a new character, definitely makes it look less likely that we're going to get a lot. Gaming today with the Durag Gang. Yep, on the Discord at 1:00, we'll be doing some gaming. Foundation of the game is not our fault, but we have to pay for it. Correct. Why did Andy leave? From what I understand, the job is really hard. It was affecting his health. It was very thankless. Crystal Dynamics were not hired. Square was not giving them funding, so Crystal wasn't hiring new people. So Andy was doing the jobs of 3 people, and it was difficult. My thoughts on Forbidden West? Yes, thanks for everyone that came to my Twitch yesterday. I finally finished the main story of Forbidden West, and it was a lot of fun. Personally, I think the story overall was better in Zero Dawn, but the actual game itself, Forbidden West, much better than the first. What if She-Hulk came the day of the roadmap? That would be a surprise. Also possible. That's essentially what they did last year. Problem is, last year we had some lead up. Like they haven't promoted She-Hulk at all. So you have to add in promotion for the character to the whole rotation. They don't just do surprise drops. They haven't officially announced She-Hulk yet. They added a mission where Spidey has to seek out a story. So, well, that definitely wouldn't go over well because then PlayStation players would only have access to it. The Avengers community is nightmare. See why? That's also true. That's also correct. If you check out the Twitter posts, there are people where and literally like it's over now. You don't have to. Andy's gone. He announced that he's leaving, and yet you still have people who desperately need to touch some grass that are attacking Andy on his post where he's announcing he's leaving Crystal Dynamics. And like over and over again, like people are repeatedly leaving comments attacking Andy on this post where he's leaving. He's no longer with Crystal Dynamics. He's no longer with Marvel's associated with Marvel's Avengers, and they're still attacking him. So I know he's happy to go. You think they're waiting for the Disney Plus? Maybe they were thinking of coordinating it, but now that it was delayed again, I think they definitely abandoned that idea. Like with Spider-Man, they didn't really have a choice. Sony was calling the shots on that, so they had to line up Spider-Man with the release of No Way Home. She-Hulk, all the other characters, that's more them trying to do it optionally, from what I know. They don't have to do it, but they would prefer that cross promotion if possible. But if they're, with all of the crazy delays happening, I mean, they just can't afford to wait. Think everyone should hold their money until we get details on this roadmap. They drop a trailer like a month or two before the character. Yeah, with Spider-Man, they kind of speed ran the whole thing. Like they had the initial, but they had the initial announcement that Spider-Man was coming to the game back in summer of 2020. And then when they were actually ready for the DLC, they dropped the roadmap. They were like, boom, Spider-Man roadmap. And during that whole month, they just promoted Spider-Man, and then they released him at the end of the month. So it's possible that they could do it with She-Hulk. They could, drop the roadmap for Avengers at the very end of March and say, by the way, She-Hulk is coming in April. And then they could spend April, the first few weeks of April, promoting She-Hulk, building up the hype, and then drop her like at the end of the month. You think it's wrong dropping skins in the marketplace every week and no information or map? I think that's perfectly fine. It is a live service game, and the alternative. That literally isn't. There is actually no alternative. Their main source of revenue is the marketplace. They've decided we're not going to sell DLCs. We're just going to rely on game sales and the marketplace. So essentially, you'd be advocating for them to, I guess, fire or just put the department that handles cosmetic on leave until they release a roadmap that they aren't allowed to release because it has to go through 30 layers of approvals. Like, I understand the frustration with, seeing new skins while content is delayed, but those are entirely separate things. You can freely not buy the skins and take a wait and see approach. But they have no reason to not have the cosmetic department do their job because they have to. Pony Labs is a myth. Alex trying to be the Christian Grey of video games. Big after Moon Knight, the next Disney Plus series is Ms. Marvel. Yeah. Ms. Marvel is supposed to be coming out later in the year, and She-Hulk is after. They put the black suit Spidey on the marketplace. Yep. The black suit Far From Home Spidey. They're making sure She-Hulk's cake is right because they know that Widow's person is coming. Oh, for sure. That must be it. What's up, Dante? Chilling. Yeah, like, yeah, it makes perfect because I mean, it's at the end of the day, this is a business. The roadmap will come when it comes, but in the meantime, the people who have nothing to do with the roadmap have to still do their jobs. So, as the player, you have the choice. You can play another game. You can keep playing this one and just not support it financially with skin purchases, or you can keep playing, keep buying skins because you have faith that everything will work out. It's all up to you. 8 months since a character on 2 out of 3 platforms. Rip Google Stadia. Pour one out for Stadia. By the way. You will be missed, Google Stadia. Hard to be confident about the roadmap. See, if I'm be honest, I don't care about the roadmap. It's not important at the end of the day. They could literally just be like, oh yeah, She-Hulk is here, you go, next DLC, slap it on the blog. Like, people are losing, I think some people are losing track of the bigger picture. It's not about the roadmap, it's about what's on the roadmap. Like, people are acting like the roadmap is the end all be all, and it doesn't actually matter at the end of the day. Like, people want the roadmap to be roadmap? People want the roadmap to be rushed out, and it's like, well, why? Did you forget last year? Like, I don't care. At the end of the day, I don't care about the roadmap if they rush it out and it's just a bunch of stuff that they hope is coming to the game in some unspecified time frame. Like, I'd rather wait for a roadmap if they're going to do one. I'd rather wait for the roadmap and have it be filled with actual relevant content that has actual dates that they can stick to. That would be great. Would be nice if CD was like Warframe that has been open. I definitely would like more open communication, but I do have to caution people that are making comparisons to this game and other games in terms of transparency, because Marvel games is very famous for being very difficult to work with, especially in regards to transparency. They are very, very particular about what information gets released, when it gets released, what you're allowed to do, what you're allowed to say. So if you're going to make comparisons, make sure it's a more relevant comparison that captures the challenges that come with working under Marvel games. The roadmap shows a direction that's important, especially now. Yeah, that's right. That's why I want them to actually release the roadmap when it's ready and not have a situation where, oh, patrol mode is coming sometime summer and beyond, and then July comes and they have a trailer for patrol mode, and then no patrol mode, and then now we're in 2022 and we have no idea what the status of patrol mode is. So I don't if it comes to a choice between a roadmap that is out early but has a bunch of stuff that they can't keep up with, and a roadmap that comes out later that's a lot more focused and has, concrete dates, I'll take the latter every time. They can skip the infographic altogether. Just give me dates, and and I'll happily take that. What's up, Syria boy? Biggest and most popular IP. That's why. Don't need a roadmap. Just end game. Just end game content. Yeah. Content. Yep. That's the most important thing. That's the main thing I'm checking for on the roadmap. What content do they have prepared for this year? How confident are they that they can release it? And is it the type of content that will help the game long term? That's what I want to know. I don't care about a shiny new roadmap. I care specifically how much they're able to do this year. At one point, you even said you'll stop supporting marketplace, and I did. They were like, when they were like, okay, well, we're removing the in development section from the blog after they already delayed the roadmap. I'm like, well, if we're not like, I wasn't a roadmap purist like say Tricks Ridiculous, who also wasn't able to completely follow through. I was just like, well, I'm not gonna be buying skins every week if they're going to just be like, oh well, this week on the blog, which used to have a development section, we're going to replace that with an advertisement for the marketplace. I'm like, well, no, I'm not doing that. We're not doing that here. Give us a substantial update about what's coming. Start communicating, and then they did. They did a blog that they posted to all the socials, and we're like, hey, this is what we plan on doing this year. This is our next patch. This is what's going to be in it. Follow that up with a blog. This is some more. This is what's going to be in it. There's going to be dev streams. Follow it up, another blog, a dev stream. So I'm like, yeah, that's what I was asking for, and good. Now just keep doing it. I'm always very specific when I talk about what I'm going to do in terms of support for the game. Avengers could have been the biggest game of 2021. Could have been the biggest game ever. I think I had that potential. Never going to get there, unfortunately. David Games had the same sort of issues with DC UO, just like DC with Marvel's. Yep. You're expecting a very dry roadmap. Ultron takeover is hacked harm with hard robots. No, from what I heard, it's either a villain sector or an actual OLT for Ultron. According to our favorite leaker. Even though it's more robots, it sounds cool. MODOK OLT. Well, you know how people will react to that one. An OLT for another character that's already in the game. Why aren't there more Marvel villains? You know, so can't do that. At best, villain sector for MODOK. Crossbones, but yeah, don't put a whole OLT around a MODOK clone. Hopefully we get another Avengers game or Justice League game that's actually great from the start. I hope so too. Hope the Marvel MMO game that's coming in the next several years lives up to the hype. Hope we get a Justice League game at some point. Hope Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is great. OLT for Taskmaster. Well, I'm not going to say nothing about that. Look, I cannot say, but yeah, that would be unfortunate. Yeah, like that's probably why at this point there's no point. They don't need to just go back and do Crossbones and MODOK villain sectors. I mean, if they want to throw Crossbones in some upcoming stuff, sure. But to do 2 new villain sectors with 2 characters that are already in the game, you already know people are just gonna be like, so they might, if they're gonna do new villain sectors, it might as well be with new villains at this point, because it's too late. Like, we kind of missed the window. Like, a MODOK villain sector would have been awesome in November or December. A Crossbones villain sector would have been expected in August. Or at the very least in the claw raid, some interaction with Crossbones. It's too late now. And they were working on MODOK villain sector at the very least. We know that based on leaks, but they scrapped it seemingly. Unless CD thinks if they release the roadmap and if it receives negative reviews, it might end up doing hurt. It really is a matter of them needing to have stuff that's firmly, it's something they can say with certainty, with reasonable certainty. Oh, we can definitely make this date. And also, Marvel Games and Square have to sign off on it once all that's done. Think Ultron story will be about Roy leaking the location of the Hell carrier, Sub-Zero to the public. And so I know it's definitely going to be related to Roy, because Roy is currently under Ultron's control. So, and he's stealing the Cosmic Cube. That's the last time we saw him. So he's being controlled by Ultron. He stole the Cosmic Cube. So Roy's causing some trouble. They sent a boy, Crystal Dynamics, to do a man's job. Bungie. Yeah. Well, speaking of Bungie, did y'all see the world's first raid? What a disaster. Just goes to show you, all games do have bugs and ruin launches. When it comes to live service games, anything can happen. Nobody's perfect. And it is now 1 o'clock, so it is time for the gaming session with the members. Thanks everyone for another edition of Super News. I'll see you guys later. I'll be on Twitch when I'm not on YouTube, so definitely check me out over there, Sadot the Gamer. Everybody, have a great weekend. Check out Doomkiller HD's channel tonight for the weekly wrap-up. I might be making an appearance on that as a call-in. Pretty sure Jay Shockblast is going to be there as well. Exclamation mark Doom. AKA Nick Fury. Definitely check that out. Those are always a lot of fun. I'm Sadot the Gamer, signing out.